What's up everyone and welcome back to MMA Talk. Daniel Cormier has finally broken his silence after facing a wave of backlash over his recent comments about Merab Dvalishvili and the way UFC takedown statistics are recorded. Over the past week, Cormier has been at the center of heated MMA discussions following remarks that stirred controversy among fans and fighters alike. It all began when middleweight champion Khamzat Chimaev clapped back at Cormier for his criticism, where DC suggested that Chimaev relies too heavily on his double-leg takedowns. However, that wasn't the only statement drawing attention. Cormier also questioned the legitimacy and accuracy of Merab Dvalishvili's all-time UFC takedown record, a record that has recently made headlines in the MMA world. DC hinted that the numbers might not be tracked correctly, suggesting that not all takedowns officially recorded by the UFC should be considered true takedowns. This immediately sparked outrage among fans, many of whom accused Cormier of inconsistency and bias. Viewers were quick to point out that Cormier, a former Olympian and two-division UFC champion himself, never publicly questioned Khabib Nurmagomedov's record-breaking performance when the Dagestani legend scored 22 takedowns in a single fight. Fans argued that questioning Merab's stats while giving Khabib a pass reflected a double standard. After several days of online criticism, Daniel Cormier took to Twitter to clarify his position. He emphasized that his comments were not intended as an attack on Merab or his wrestling ability. "I'm not mad at his takedowns," Cormier wrote. "I just always had trouble understanding how they score them in MMA. I still don't believe Khabib got 22 takedowns. The scoring system doesn't make sense to me." Merab Dvalishvili, meanwhile, remains focused on his own journey. The Georgian powerhouse is gearing up for what could be a record-breaking fourth title defense in UFC bantamweight history. His next bout, scheduled in 2 months against former rival Petryan, could solidify his legacy as one of the greatest wrestlers the division has ever seen. While Merab trains for glory, Cormier recently expanded on his thoughts during ESPN's Good Guy/Bad Guy show alongside Chael Sonnen. On the program, he dove deeper into the nuances of the MMA scoring system and why he believes it's flawed. "The problem isn't Merab or Khabib," Cormier explained. "The problem is how MMA defines a takedown. A takedown should only count when you actually bring your opponent to the mat and establish control. It shouldn't count if the guy immediately gets up and you just pick him up again. That's not a real takedown, it's a mat return." Cormier went on to reveal that he's even been invited to meetings with officials who handle UFC statistics, but he still walked away unconvinced. "They called me in, and I sat down with the people who do the takedowns," he said. "Even after talking to them, I still don't agree. They can call it what they want, but to me, that's not a takedown. We need a clearer definition. Fighters like me, Chael, and others who've been in there should have input on what actually counts as one." He concluded by breaking down Merab's most recent performance. Merab didn't really have 20 takedowns. He probably had 5 or 6 legitimate ones and around 14 mat returns. "It's still impressive, but let's call it what it is." Cormier's comments have reignited an important debate within the MMA community, one about how grappling dominance should be measured and rewarded. Whether fans agree with him or not, DC's willingness to challenge the system once again shows why he remains one of the most influential voices in the sport. Before we jump into the next story, we have a small favor to ask. If you're enjoying the content, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon. It really helps us out and ensures you'll never miss an update. Move on to another news. Brendan Allen continues to make waves in the middleweight division following his dominant victory over Reinier de Ridder, a fight that ended in shocking fashion and has since sent the MMA community buzzing. In what was supposed to be a challenging test for Allen, he not only overcame adversity but also secured one of the most decisive wins of his career, setting his sights on an even bigger challenge, a showdown with Khamzat Chimaev. The fight began with Reinier de Ridder looking composed and confident. Known for his elite grappling and championship pedigree, many expected the Dutch contender to control the bout early and impose his signature ground dominance. Indeed, in the first round, de Ridder showcased sharp timing and smooth transitions, appearing every bit the seasoned technician fans have come to respect. However, things took a dramatic turn as the fight progressed. Brendan Allen adjusted his game plan brilliantly, using patience and calculated pressure to neutralize de Ridder's rhythm. Once he found his timing, Allen began to dictate the grappling exchanges, reversing positions, and taking control from the top. His conditioning and composure began to shine through while de Ridder's gas tank rapidly depleted. By the end of the third round, the momentum had completely shifted. De Ridder, exhausted and visibly drained, sat on his stool and was unable to continue, a stunning sight for fans who had seen him endure far tougher wars in the past. Allen celebrated the monumental win with the poise of a man who knew he had earned his moment. In his post-fight interview with MMA Junkie, Allen wasted no time making his intentions clear. He wants a crack at the middleweight king, Khamzat Chimaev. "I speak grappling fluently," Allen said confidently when asked about a potential matchup with Chimaev. "His wrestling is really good, obviously, we all know that, but my jiu-jitsu is really good too. I think I have a great outlook for that fight, whether it happens now or later." Allen went on to express his confidence in his preparation and the people around him. "I've got the best
minds and the best team behind me," he continued.
"No matter what, we'll be ready. With a full camp, I'm ready for anyone in the world." His confidence wasn't arrogance, it was grounded in experience and strategy.
Reflecting on the fight with De Ridder, Allen explained that patience and composure were key. "I knew if I got him down again, I'd finish him," he said. "He was squeezing so hard in the first round, trying to control everything, but there's no way you can keep that kind of pressure for 2 rounds, let alone 5. I just stayed smart and composed, and I knew eventually he'd slow down." Allen reiterated his comfort in high-level grappling exchanges. "Like I said, I speak grappling fluently. I can spend 25 minutes in those positions without panic. It's all about understanding movement, pressure, and timing. I just kept calculating, waiting for my moment, and when it came, I made it count." If a fight with Chimaev doesn't materialize, Allen also mentioned another name, Dricus du Plessis. The middleweight contender believes that both matchups would showcase his ability to compete with and defeat the division's elite. "Whether it's Chimaev or du Plessis," he said, "I'm ready. My team and I know what we're capable of. I've proven I can hang with the best, and now it's time for the world to see it." Brendan Allen's statement victory over Reinier de Ridder was more than just another win, it was a declaration. With elite grappling, improved composure, and newfound confidence, Allen has officially entered the conversation among top-tier middleweights, and his next move could very well define the next phase of his career.
Move on to another news.
After Reinier de Ridder's shocking and disappointing performance against Brendan Allen, the MMA world erupted with intense debate and criticism. What was expected to be a thrilling, high-level middleweight showdown quickly turned into one of the most surprising outcomes of the year, with de Ridder quitting on the stool after 3 rounds. For many fans, analysts, and even fighters, the result was nothing short of stunning. De Ridder entered the bout with a reputation as one of the most well-rounded and mentally tough competitors in the sport, known for his elite grappling and composure under pressure.
Yet, against Brendan Allen, that trademark resilience seemed to vanish.
After a solid start in the first round, de Ridder began to fade quickly as Allen imposed his will with superior wrestling transitions, relentless top pressure, and punishing control. By the end of the 3rd round, de Ridder looked exhausted and unable to continue, an outcome that drew criticism from fans who labeled him a quitter. Among those who reacted to the fight was UFC middleweight champion Khamzat Chimaev. Known for his intensity and unfiltered opinions, Chimaev took to Twitter shortly after the fight, calling de Ridder a BS guy who gave up. The comments spread quickly through social media, with fans echoing similar sentiments. De Ridder had previously been discussed as a potential challenge for Chimaev, someone who could perhaps test the dominant champion's grappling credentials, but after this performance, that narrative completely collapsed. As one fan put it online, "All that hype is gone in one night." Meanwhile, UFC President Dana White also addressed the bout in a post-event interview. White praised Brendan Allen for his composure and killer instinct, but he didn't mince words about de Ridder's performance. "He absolutely murdered this thing," Dana said. "The fight had the potential to be great, but you've got to have 2 guys ready to go." De Ridder looked slow tonight. He got out-wrestled, struggled with Allen's speed, and just couldn't keep up. You can't deliver that kind of performance when the spotlight's on you. Allen's victory was not just impressive, it was career-defining. With this dominant win, he broke into the middleweight division's top 5, putting himself firmly in title contention. One more big win could very well earn him a shot at Chimaev or another top contender. However, as Dana White reminded fans, the division remains as competitive as ever. "This weight class is stacked," he said. "Even with de Ridder's loss, you've still got guys like Sean Strickland, Dricus du Plessis, Nasruddin Imavov, and Brendan Allen all in the mix. Every one of them is dangerous." Reactions from other fighters across social media added fuel to the discussion. Brazilian contender Caio Baralho asked bluntly, "Did RDR get injured in the fight, or did he just give up? Real question, guys." Paulo Costa, known for his sharp humor, chimed in saying, "If I knew it would only last 4 rounds, I would have taken the fight myself." Marvin Vettori was even more direct, calling de Ridder's performance embarrassing. While criticism poured in, some fans noted that fighters are human and that exhaustion and mental strain can overwhelm even the toughest athletes. Still, the consensus among most in the MMA community was that de Ridder's decision to quit on the stool damaged his reputation significantly. As for Brendan Allen, this win has elevated his profile tremendously. He not only exposed weaknesses in one of the division's most respected grapplers but also proved he's ready to challenge the elite. Whether his next step is a clash with Chimaev, du Plessis, or another top 5 opponent, Allen's name is now part of the title conversation, and the middleweight landscape just got a whole lot more interesting. Move on to another news. Joe Rogan has once again sent shockwaves through the MMA community, this time by declaring that a potential Jon Jones vs Alex Pereira matchup could be the biggest fight in the history of combat sports. The statement came during a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, where Rogan and comedian Andrew Schultz discussed the future of the heavyweight division and the growing buzz around a possible White House event that UFC President Dana White has teased for 2025. According to Rogan, a super fight between Jon Jones and Alex Pereira would not only transcend the UFC but would also be one of the most monumental events in sports history. If Jon Jones really thinks thinks he's going to fight Alex Pereira. He's getting ready, at least mentally, Rogan said.
That's the biggest fight imaginable.
You've got the greatest of all time in Jon Jones and arguably the most destructive striker we've ever seen in Pereira. The discussion arose amid speculation that Pereira, the current light heavyweight champion, could soon make the move to heavyweight, a transition he has hinted might mark the final chapter of his legendary career. Pereira's meteoric rise, defined by his knockout artistry and aura of danger, has made him one of the most compelling figures in modern MMA. Now, the idea of him stepping up to face Jon Jones, the consensus greatest mixed martial artist of all time, has fans and analysts captivated. Rogan and Schultz debated what the logistics of such a fight might look like. Rogan floated the idea of a catchweight bout at 225 pounds, emphasizing that it wouldn't even need a championship belt on the line to draw global attention.
It doesn't have to be for a title, Rogan said. Make it a catchweight fight. Make it the baddest man on the planet edition. That would be the biggest event in human history. The prospect becomes even more intriguing considering the current state of the heavyweight division. Jon Jones, who has been sidelined due to injury, is expected to return soon, but it remains unclear whether his comeback fight will be against Stipe Miocic, the winner of Tom Aspinall vs Cyril Gane, or potentially Pereira himself if the Brazilian moves up. The uncertainty has fueled endless fan theories, and Rogan's comments have only intensified the speculation. Meanwhile, Khamzat Chimaev has also thrown his name into the mix, teasing the possibility of facing Pereira at heavyweight. Known for his fearless attitude and willingness to take on any challenge, Chimaev claimed he'd move up in weight just to test himself against the Brazilian knockout artist. This unexpected twist adds even more unpredictability to an already chaotic heavyweight picture. Rogan highlighted why Pereira vs Jones stands apart from any other potential matchup. You're talking about two completely different kinds of greatness, he said. Jon Jones, the most complete, versatile, and intelligent fighter the sport has ever seen, versus Pereira, the most devastating and precise striker to ever compete. No one hits like that guy. No one fights like him.
Andrew Schultz agreed, noting that the cultural and promotional magnitude of such a fight could surpass even Conor McGregor's biggest pay-per-view events.
That's bigger than McGregor vs Khabib, Schultz said. That's global. That's mythical level stuff. Rogan concluded by emphasizing the historical scale of what this fight could represent. Jon Jones vs Alex Pereira. That's not just an MMA fight. That's a combat sports event for the ages. You've got the GOAT versus the most dangerous man alive. Put that at the White House. Make it a global spectacle. It'll break every record the sport's ever seen. As Pereira continues to dominate the light heavyweight division and Jon Jones prepares for his return, the MMA world can only imagine what might happen if these two legends finally collide. Whether it happens at heavyweight, catchweight, or under special rules, Jones vs Pereira already has all the ingredients to become the most electrifying and historic fight ever seen. Move on to another news. Paddy Pimblett has officially responded to recent comments made by UFC featherweight champion Ilia Topuria, comments that have reignited their long-standing rivalry and stirred up speculation about a potential blockbuster matchup between the two. The exchange began after Topuria's high-profile press conference in Spain, where the reigning champion discussed his plans for 2025 and teased possible future opponents. During the event, Ilia Topuria confidently addressed ongoing rumors that he may headline the first-ever UFC Paramount card, a major upcoming event expected to be one of the promotion's biggest of the year. When asked about who he might face next, Topuria didn't hesitate to bring up familiar names. "It's very possible I'll headline that card," Topuria said with a smile. "As for opponents, there are 3 people I'd like to fight. Definitely Paddy Pimblett, because we have history. That's the fight everyone wants to see. And I think you all want me to do that thing that I can't say out loud." The crowd reportedly erupted at the mention of Pimblett's name, a rivalry that traces back to their heated exchanges online and backstage altercations in previous UFC events. Topuria continued, "The second one is Islam Makhachev, and who would be the third? I don't know anyone can get it." The comments instantly went viral, sparking excitement among fans who have long been calling for a Topuria vs Pimblett showdown. It didn't take long for Paddy Pimblett to respond. The Liverpudlian star, known for his outspoken personality and sharp wit, took to social media to fire back with his trademark humor. He posted a photo of himself shrugging, captioned, "Why hasn't Ilia sent the contract yet?" The post quickly gained traction, amassing thousands of likes and comments within hours as fans flooded his mentions, calling for the fight to be made official. This latest exchange has reignited one of the most entertaining potential rivalries in the UFC. The tension between the two fighters dates back several years when a verbal altercation nearly escalated into a backstage brawl at a UFC event in London. Since then, both have taken occasional jabs at each other, but this time, the stakes feel much higher. Topuria is now a world champion, and Pimblett has become one of the sport's most recognizable personalities, thanks to his charisma, popularity, and steadily improving performances inside the octagon. Fans are already imagining the magnitude of such a fight, especially if it headlines the new Paramount card. The combination of Topuria's precision striking and knockout power with Pimblett's unpredictable grappling and crowd-pleasing style makes
makes for an explosive matchup. The storyline also adds fuel to the fire, a simmering rivalry between a fiery Spanish-Georgian champion and a brash British fan favorite.
Analysts have also begun to weigh in.
Some believe this could be a massive pay-per-view draw, with Topuria's star power growing rapidly after his recent title defenses and Pimblett's mainstream appeal bringing in casual viewers. Others, however, question whether Pimblett is ready for a challenge at the level of Topuria, who has looked nearly unstoppable since entering the UFC. Adding another layer to the discussion is the lightweight picture, where Justin Gaethje has stated he'll either fight for the title next or retire. If the UFC moves forward with Topuria versus Pimblett at Paramount, it could reshape the scheduling of upcoming title fights and contender matchups. For now, nothing has been officially confirmed, but both fighters seem more than willing to make it happen.
Topuria's comments suggest he's open to settling unfinished business, and Pimblett's quick response shows he's eager to step into that spotlight.
If the UFC books Ilia Topuria versus Paddy Pimblett as the main event for the inaugural Paramount card, it wouldn't just be a fan-favorite fight, it could be one of the most talked-about events of the year, blending genuine animosity, star power, and high-level competition in classic UFC fashion.